Skating again this morning. They coming on the trip?
They're both going to make the trip, and they're both progressing well. So that's some good news. And, I don't believe they're going to play against Chicago, but there's a chance that they'll participate on the road trip.
Day off the ice today, but some meetings. Can you maybe just give us a sense of what's discussed and what tone you try and set today?
Well, we went through some of the things that we did right in the game, which was a lot, in fact. But then we had to address the negative part as well, and not giving up an overabundance last night of grade A scoring chances, but the ones that were given up were triple A's, if you will. And again, we have to try and eliminate those dramatic errors. For example, on the first goal, the pinch and the poor read and not having anybody cover is an issue right now that we have to get better at. So we addressed some of that. We talked about some of the penalties we're taking, that they're a little unacceptable at this point, and it's causing us grief because our penalty kill isn't as strong as it needs to be.
You've had quite a bit of practice time this last week and a half. Are these mistakes a result of, you would think practice would help you clean things up and maybe be a little bit sharper, but are some of them just the fact that maybe there haven't been as many games in a row and maybe some in-game stuff?
You know what, that may be a good point, Ryan, where, you practice so many different situations. Until you get in a game and you have it free-flowing and understand the intensity and the consequences, I think that does come into play. Yet, I just look at the first minute yesterday. The pinch I'd already talked about, too many men on the ice. Penalty without even having a shift yet. Those are unacceptable. To me, those are mental mistakes that veteran players are making right now. And until we clean the majority of that stuff up, we'll continue to struggle with keeping the puck out of our net.
How is the group responding to this?
Well, they're very receptive as far as taking their penance, if you want to call it that. They're part of the discussion, which is encouraging. Usually if they turn quiet on you and they don't talk or participate, then that's not a good sign. So they're part of the discussion, and they realize that they need to be better in certain areas. So again, we're going to have to work our way out of it. Struggle and emerge, I think, is Notre Dame's motto, and that's where we're at right now. Penalties.
You just didn't like the way he was playing.
Well, I asked him today, would you play you last night when you took a too many penalty without even being on the ice yet? And his answer was very fair, so we got that sorted out.
You said before the season, one of the most common questions was how your group was going to deal with different expectations. Have you viewed any of what's gone wrong here as your team struggling to deal with those in some way?
No, I think it's an excuse. You always find reasons for something to fit. And I will say maybe earlier Vancouver and a little bit of Winnipeg where we got a little full of ourselves probably and ahead of it. But the last few nights we've been humbled enough to get back to work. For me, it's just mistakes. It has nothing to do with expectations.
How did it go from almost a perfect game in the first game to it's just incremental from game to game to game? You just keep making more mental.
Well, I actually thought we were better last night. We were significantly better last night. We gave up, in our opinion, 9 grade A scoring chances. That's down from almost double that against the 3 teams prior. So, but the quality of chance and the way the chance happens is even, that has to get cleaned up.
Do you subscribe to the theory that your best players have to be your best players, and if they're all struggling at the same time, or a number of them, your chances of winning are not good?
Well, I think that's common sense. That there's no other way of describing it than the way that you did. If 7 or 8 of your top guys are struggling, it's a lot to ask for the bottom 7 or 8, if you will, to pick up the slack. But for me, it's team-wide. It's we're all taking turns at critical moments, making mistakes that we traditionally or over the last year and a bit haven't. So we're struggling to refine our game, rediscover it.
You split up your first pair. Obviously, they allowed 3 goals. Adam said afterwards, you're not going to win when your top pairs on the ice for 4 goals against in 2 consecutive games. Do you look to put them back together, Chicago, or you possibly experiment with some other pairings with potentially reinserting that?
We'll talk about that today. Chicago plays tonight in St. Louis. We'll get a chance to watch the game and do a bit of a pre-scout. And being on the road, not having last change also affects things. So I think it's good for us to go on the road right now. I think it's good for us to get out and take care of each other. And we'll see where we end up as far as pairs go.
Yamamoto has put together a couple of decent performances. How does it change for him heading out on the road, just from a matchup standpoint? What have you thought of him? What do you think this road trip will tell you?
I think you answered some of your questions. He played pretty well over the last few games. He's been one of our better players along the boards. For a small guy, he keeps a lot of plays alive offensively. He's learning the defensive side of the game and can't be blamed on many of the chances that we've been giving up, which is a good sign for him. He's now going to experience playing in some buildings that are not easy to play in, and that's great for him. He's got to get that out of the way, and overall, with considering where the team is, I think he's done a pretty damn good job of finding a way to contribute.